Way back in ancient China, and even until now, the dragon has always symbolized something super special, something mystical, something otherworldly. I mean, it literally symbolized the emperor, the most important person back in ancient China. The emperor had the dragon throne, he wore dragon robes, it was the creature that represented power, wisdom, luck, fortune, all the things that a human would want. And to this day, it still permeates Chinese culture. And that's why a lot of people who celebrate Chinese New Year were really looking forward to what Jordan Brand would come out with for the Year of the Dragon, and specifically for this shoe. Air Jordan 1 Low OG Year of the Dragon. Now this shoe is dropping on January 24th for $160, slightly more expensive than a regular Jordan 1 Low OG. Now on the same day, a bunch of shoes are dropping, so definitely be alert on that day. You got the Jordan 14 Love Letter that got pushed up. You have this shoe, I don't know if the Spizikes are dropping in the United States. So a lot of things going on that day, but I think most people are really on the lookout for this one. Now right off the bat, after giving you that whole spiel about how important the dragon is to Chinese culture, as nice as this shoe looks, I do think they left a little bit on the table. I'll have more to say on that later, but I don't think they did as much as they could have with such a cool creature. Now we're gonna wait 12 more years to see what they do next time, but I don't know, I can't quite put my finger on it. Maybe I just had like insane expectations for Year of the Dragon, but I'm not 100% satisfied. And fun fact, the Year of the Dragon doesn't actually begin on January 1st. It aligns with the Lunar New Year, and that begins at different times every year. Super confusing, I know, but this year, Chinese New Year is officially on February 10th, so the Year of the Dragon doesn't actually start on that year. A good example is my brother, who was born in '89. Year of the Dragon, technically, the majority of it anyway, was in 1988. He was born in January, he caught on to the very tail end of the Year of the Dragon from '88, so his zodiac, his dragon, much cooler than mine, but he just made it. All very confusing, but there you go. And the base layer of the shoe, it is like an off-white or sail base layer, and it is leather, and the leather is pretty standard for a Jordan 1 OG. I do feel like the Jordan Spizikes that I reviewed like last week, that had really soft leather. For this one, it feels more like a general release OG Jordan 1 Low, so it's nothing to get like super excited about. And the overlay sticking true to the theme of most of the Lunar New Year shoes this year from Nike and Jordan. It comes in this green dragon scale pattern, and the texture, if you imagine like the faux lizard skin on the Jordan 2s, feels kind of like that. This is slightly softer, I think. And the maroon swoosh, it's like reflective. You can see the light like bouncing off that swoosh. And I do want to point out the ankle collar. It's got this satin lining over it. Does give it a more premium vibe. I do like how that feels. Now, one thing to point out, I'll get a sizing and comfort later, but this material, it can affect, depending on how tightly or how loose you want your shoe to be, it can affect sizing. So if you're one of those people that wear like super loose laces and you don't lace them up, you might feel like your feet are coming out of the shoe. And the tongue, it is a nylon tongue, pretty standard for a Jordan 1 OG. Now, one thing I will point out between an OG Jordan 1 Low and a non-OG Jordan 1 Low, one of the main differences is the tongue. So on an OG pair, the tongue is much more subdued, so it's not as long, it's not as pronounced as a non-OG Jordan 1 Low, and I much more prefer this subdued look. And also it has Nike Air branding instead of a Jumpman branding. And another difference is the shape of an OG Jordan 1 Low is also slightly, just ever so slightly more slender than a non-OG. And then another difference between an OG and non-OG, the OGs, if you look at the booty of the shoe, the Wings logo is on the heel tab. On the non-OGs, the Wings logo is like below that heel tab on the heel counter. And speaking of the booty of the shoe, this Wings logo, similar to this maroon color, that is embroidered on this golden heel tab, which I think is very on theme, and I really like how it's embroidered on top and not printed. Now, one thing, and I don't know if Jordan Brand was intentionally going after this aesthetic, but in Chinese culture, there's something called, I don't even know what the English word is, but it's essentially like Chinese gold. Now, the heel tab of this shoe, in this color, it does kind of remind me of that. I don't think it was intentional, but it did remind me of it. Now, putting the fact that like everyone wants an OG over a non-OG, I think just the shape looks better, especially the tongue. It's just much more like hidden. It's not right in your face. So I do really just prefer the Jordan 1 Low OGs. Now, I will say this still is not the same as the shoe that came out in 1985. So the 85 cut, which we'll actually get one later this year, The 85 cut of a Jordan 1 low, it has 8 eyelets. The Travis Scott Jordan 1 lows, they have 8 eyelets, but for some reason, for Jordan 1 low OGs, they stick with 7 eyelets. Don't know why. Just don't know why. Now inside the tongue, it's actually modified branding, so you'll see a Jumpman that's wrapped around in a dragon. Really cool. I actually really like how that looks. And then sticking to the inside of the shoe, the insole of the shoe is also branded, and I'm not quite sure exactly what that shape is. I think maybe they're going for like a peacock type of look, but it's obviously very inspired by like Eastern artwork, and that's not the last time you'll see that shape, and keep that in mind. Now the Jordan 1 low OGs, just like the non-OGs, comes with a rubber cup sole with a Nike Air unit on the heel. And this sole here, it is sail, so slightly more yellow than the leather on the upper sole. You can see it in person, probably not on images or on video, but it is got the sail tinge to it. I don't mind it because it's not like super vanilla pea stain yellow. Apologies for the dirtiness, already worn this shoe, but it also comes with like a semi-translucent rubber outsole. Obviously a very iconic Jordan 1 rubber outsole. I like how that looks. I'm a sucker for like icy, semi-translucent outsoles, so I think it looks nice. The one time that it doesn't look nice is when it kind of yellows, but fresh out of the box, I just think it looks very fresh. Now the shoe doesn't come with any extra laces. I think an extra set would have been nice. Maybe white, maybe even black, maybe even sail. This color actually looks pretty good, but I would have wanted to see another set of laces just to see what it looks like. And the shoe, just like the Spizike lows, also comes with this red pocket. On one side, you have this graphic of a dragon, and that's either a phoenix or just like a bird. Very, very cool. And if you didn't know, during Lunar New Year, people would exchange red pockets with money in them. And on the other side, you'll see this peacock pattern. That is the same pattern as the insoles, like I mentioned before, with the Jumpman in the middle. And then inside, it is not money, but it's something. This little pendant that has a hollowed out Jordan. There you go. And it does come with a special box, not in terms of the Nike, but the color and the pattern, similar to that pattern that you see on the insole, as well as on the rib pocket, that kind of triangular pattern. And inside, dragon themed paper. I like it. Now in terms of sizing and comfort, I'm a wide footer. For Jordan 1 low OGs, I go true to size. I will say if you don't have wide feet, for the low cut version of the Jordan 1s, you might be able to get away with going down half a size. The padding around the ankle collar and inside is not as much as the high cut version, and especially with this lining, the satin lining, it does feel a little bit more slippery. So if you don't have wide feet and you really like a very tight feel on your feet, you could maybe go down half a size. Overall, if I had to pick one, I still recommend just going true to size for everybody. Now in terms of comfort, even though I think this shoe is probably the most popular shoe out of the whole pack for Jordan Brand in this Lunar New Year for 2024, I think in terms of comfort, it doesn't hold a candle to the Spizikes. That shoe, because the midsole as well as the comfort, it is very reminiscent of the Jordan 3s, which are a very comfortable shoe, and that was just a very soft feeling shoe. I think that's one of the most comfortable shoes I've worn in recent memory. Now this one, it just feels much more like a regular Jordan 1s. It's fine for like casual use, but objectively, there are many more different shoes that are more comfortable than a Jordan 1 low. It feels old, the cushioning is not that great, the rubber cup sole, very ancient, so unfortunately, even though Jordan 1 lows are a beautiful shoe, just not the most comfortable. It's fine, but it's not great. Now that brings the total sole score of the Air Jordan 1 Low OG Year of the Dragon to 31 out of 50. Now in terms of colorway, I think this is a pretty nice colorway. I don't love like individually the green and the maroon, but I think it's fine. I think it looks still pretty nice. And generally a white, I know this isn't exactly white, but very close to white. A white Jordan 1 low, you can't really make it ugly. You gotta really try to make that shoe look super ugly. So I think the colorway is very nice on the shoe. I like the clear outsoles, the midsole, even though it's sail, it's not like super vanilla and overdone. So the colorway, it's super clean. In terms of the materials, the Jordan 1 lows never came with like super premium materials. The leather on this one, it's not as soft as the Spizikes, definitely not premium or anything. I do like that it's kind of satin finish. Does give off like a more premium aesthetic. Tech specs obviously very ancient. Rubber cup sole, super old. Nike Air on the heel. Cushioning's like barely there, so it's not the greatest, but overall it's decent. In terms of the comfort, if you've ever worn a low cut version of the Jordan 1, you probably know what it feels like. It's not the best, but for like casual walking around, it definitely does the job. The padding inside is decent. The cushioning, not so much. Feels very much like an older shoe, but I don't think most people are getting this shoe for like a very comfortable experience. In terms of the versatility, the Jordan 1 silhouette, obviously one of the most classic and timeless shoes ever. Very versatile, easy to wear. The colors on the shoe, the green and maroon, especially this kind of more shiny and reflective maroon on the swoosh, might be a little bit too much for some people, but overall, a white-based sneaker, I think, is still very easy to wear. And on this shoe, yeah, it's hard to go wrong. It really is. In terms of the storytelling, I think they did a pretty good job from the box, the paper inside the box, as well as the scales on the overlays, that little graphic on the inside of the tongue, the insole itself. I think it all comes together pretty nicely, but just like I said with the Spizikes, and I think overall for this year's Lunar New Year from Jordan Brand, I think a lot of people had high expectations of the Year of the Dragon. It is just one of the coolest creatures, coolest animals just ever, and I just don't think they did enough. Now, if you were to ask me what I would do, I don't know. That's why I'm not a designer. That's why I don't have these ideas in my head, but I just feel like it didn't really hammer home the Year of the Dragon on any of the shoes this year. Let me know what you think in the comments. Am I expecting too much? Am I not? I just feel like there's more they could have done with such a cool creature. Now last year it was the Year of the Rabbit. They also came out with a Jordan 1 Low OG. I don't think that ever released in the United States. That shoe was only limited to 5,000 pairs globally, so a very hard shoe to get. And I think that was a really nice looking shoe. Now compare that to this. Which one would I go for? I'm not really someone who cares about exclusivity and like that being limited. Just in a vacuum, just looking at each shoe, I think I probably would go with the Year of the Rabbit. I think the execution on that is slightly better, and the colors on that slightly better as well. Like I said, I had very high expectations, maybe unrealistic expectations, but overall, I'm still pretty satisfied that I have these in hand. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Sole Inclined. Let me know what you think of the Air Jordan 1 Low OG Year of the Dragon. Like, subscribe, comment, all the good stuff. And remember, tomorrow may never come, so wear your shoes.